Today, I'm going to help you become a better writer by answering some common creative writing questions and providing some narration as I'm doing my own storytelling and working on this own short story to give you some advice to help you improve your writing. Welcome to Kauffman Writes. I'm Kauffman, and this is my daily creative writing live stream where I try to provide as much value for you, whether you're a new creative writer just starting out, whether you're a student who's still practicing at creative writing, or whether you've been writing for a very long time, or if you're in the industry. So welcome. Thank you for stopping by, and let me know if you find some value today. All right. So before I hop into my first segment, I want to say there's two reasons that I started this show. One, I wanted to challenge myself to write 30 minutes a day every day for 1 year. That's my 2024 writing challenge. And I want to say that so far, today is day 27. So it's not going too bad so far. I've done 5 short stories, and one of them is turning into a pretty fun novel, honestly. And number 2, of all the writers that I've worked with in the past, I want to say 10 years, from writers groups, from clients, and just interacting with writers on a day-to-day basis, I've learned that one of the greatest things that writers struggle with is consistency and accountability. I know it's so difficult to get good writing routines in, especially when maybe you're busy with life or maybe you have other obligations. But like any other healthy habit, getting into some sort of consistency with your writing, even if that's like 10 minutes at a time, you want to make it super easy, will help you become a much better writer and help you tell the stories that you want to tell. All right. So we're going to hop right into our very first segment, your creative writing questions answered. All right. So if you have if you're hopping into the live stream or if you're watching on the replay, feel free to drop a question down in the comments and I would be very happy to answer it for you. All right. So question number 1. So as someone who has always felt the urge to write, how do you suggest I start? I'm like, that is an as. So as someone who has always felt the urge to write, how do you suggest I start? I get this type of question from new writers all the time. The easiest way to start is pick up a pen, grab a piece of paper, and just start writing whatever comes out right now. Uh, yeah. And then another option is, let's say you want to do something even easier. Pull out your phone, pull open the notes app, and then just start writing whatever comes to mind. That's super easy. Nothing that would be even more strenuous than if you were posting like a social media message. Now, if the real question is, oh, you know what? I feel like I can write, I just don't know what to write about. You have a couple options, right? So usually I suggest is figure out what inspires you, whether that's a TV show, a book, family, friends, stories, or life. Pick one inspiration and then start your first story from there. Like it could be, you could start like a fact for fact, like this is the story you want to write about, or you could do something nonfiction, like based on it. But that's always the best place to start as a reference. Now, if you're like, all right, well, I don't feel like I have any good stories to tell, then my suggestion is go online, find a random, type in pictures, pick like a genre, something that interests you. I always like to do fantasy pictures because I'm a huge nerd. Google the picture that you like, pull it up, and then use that as inspiration for a free write. It's kind of a creative way to like get your inspiration started just by picking some random image online. All right. So right on to question number 2. Please give me ideas about creating a detective universe. So I wanted to include this one because I wanted to include more situational examples to depending on what type of story you're trying to tell. So if I was going to write a detective universe, first off, the one thing I'm always going to tell you to start at, who is your hero? Who's your protagonist? Who is the story that everything revolves around? So, so important. I one of my screenplays is actually like the protagonist is actually a detective. So, in a detective universe, you want to establish a who's your detective and what type of detective do you want the story to revolve around? Are you thinking more a like classic detective with the trench coat, like Inspector Gadgetish, maybe? Or you think of something more like Sherlock Holmes, classic detective? Or is it something that's going to be like a little more new age? The great thing is you get to decide, you get to have fun with it. Figure out what type of detective you want, what's the personality you want, and then what's the mystery that they need to solve. I think one of a really great indie film that did a very good job on a detective like noir was a Brick. I want to say it's been a few years since I've seen it, but that was a good classic. Now, once you have the detective, once you have the story mapped out, then you can figure out, all right, what is like the type of universe that you want to tell, right? Is this going to be the detective who they're going to find clues by interrogating people, by going to different settings, or is it something where they're going to find clues by the dead bodies, the trail of dead bodies that they come across? I think a detective character I love Jessica Jones. She was a great detective character. Um, hopefully she comes back to the Marvel universe, and because she was a detective but a severe alcoholic, and that strength and weakness made it difficult for her to be a great detective. Um, yeah, so those are my that's just a couple suggestions for fleshing out your world when you're creating a detective universe. All right, question number 3. As a student, how do I structure creative stories for school? So, if you're going to school for creative writing, as I very well know, I did a BA in creative writing over at the over in Riverside. It was a great experience. What I learned is that a lot of your success is going to come from you and you alone. So, the type of story that you want to tell and how much time and effort and energy you put into it is generally going to be determined by you. Now, this could be different if based on different creative writing programs, but my recommendation is first off, recognize what are the requirements of the assignment. It's probably going to be a different set of expectations if you're doing your first assignment for a creative writing class as compared to a thesis, right? So, first, what are the requirements? And then, second, outline the world and structure the story based off what the assignment is. If it's pretty open, which sometimes it tends to be, or other times it might be like you need to have X amount of characters, or you need to have this type of dialogue, or it needs to be structured in like a 3-act structure, right? Based on what you're doing. And then once you have that basis and that foundation, pick a story that interests you. Think of a TV show, think of a book. I always say, think of what inspires you, and then you can go from there. All right. And where I'm going to hop right into bonus question. Bonus question. If you could have any ability or power, what would it be? And how would you turn that into a story? You know what? I put this down, but then I didn't really think about what I would want to do. If if you could have any ability or power, what would it be? And how would you turn that into a story? I pose this question to you. If you were going to turn this into a story based on any type of like magic ability or superhero ability, which one would you have and what type of story would you want to tell? Post it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your ideas. I always love not just collaborating, but hearing how so many different types of writers can hear the same question, statement, or prompt and then go in many different directions. For me, I would probably ooh, what's a fun one? Actually, there was a character I created recently, which like their power was super cool. The ability to travel through shadows. And I was like, all right, that was kind of a fun ability. Um, oh, You know what? I know exactly which one I would choose. I would choose the ability to bring stories, worlds that I create to life. So if I created a character, then I would bring it to life. Or I could erase it. Hopefully. I've seen that done in a couple of different stories where, like a writer creates this like crazy character, they come to life and they screw everything up. So that's the type of story that I would bring to life. What if you could have an ability or power, what would it be? And then how would you turn that into a story? I'd love to hear down in the comments below. All right. So those are some of my questions. All right. And I'm going to move right along to the next segment. So once again, thanks for hopping into the live stream, or if you're watching this on the replay. If you found any value out of these questions, don't forget to like and or subscribe to this video based on what platform you're on. That way you'll be notified when I go live in the future or whenever I post new videos. All right. So on to the second segment, because it's time to write now. All right. Okay. So I'm going to throw up this guy. So essentially, so what I'm about to do, I'm going to hop into my short story that I've been working on, and part of my 30 minute a day challenge. I'm tend to do a mix of writing and then narrating. So if you have any questions, drop them below and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Or if you're feeling creative, feel free to join me. All right. And let me throw on some music. There we go. Getting a little cool music vibe. And now let's bring up the story. Okay. So today, I'm once again continuing to work on The Last Scarecrow. Here's the pitch. The Last Scarecrow, a post-apocalyptic fairy tale about a scarecrow come to life, who journeys across a land ridden with animals, creatures, and beasts, who are fading away into the nothingness at the hands of the first demon. And give me just a second. Just got to adjust this over here. Perfect. All right. So that's the pitch for my story right now. It started off as a 2 to 3 page short write, as a 2 to 3 page free write, and it's looking like it's going to be a full length novel. I'm super excited. All right. So let's hop right into it. And as I was thinking last night, I need to go back to a previous part because there's a character I want to adjust right now. Okay. So this was the inspiration, 30 minutes, and the timer starts now. All right, so this was the moment so he was about to enter the city, and this is one of the first characters that he's come across beyond this a crow. God, sometimes grammar really bugs the crap out of me. All right. I don't know if that's actually the right spelling for that or not. Okay. All right, so I need to make sure that this description makes sense because I pictured this character last night and I've been thinking about how did I've been thinking about the supporting characters that I wanted to add. Um, Drop this music down. So I've been thinking about the supporting characters that I've wanted to add to this story, and this character came to me. But this is only a very brief introduction to the character. It'll be making an appearance later on in the story. Cool. Perfect. I wanted to make sure that I touched upon that character because he's going to come back later in the story. I realized a good place for that character, Mr. Rabbit, for what he should now be called. All right. So where I had last left him, I'm gonna go take care of that. All right. So let's see where I had last left him. That's right. So both him and this Quill, Mr. Quill, is kind of like a magic carpet-like character. Have crashed. They fell through, barged into a building that was blocking their path, and fell to the floor. Now they're underneath. Thanks for that. Here I am, trying to be careful not to lose the rest of my straw, and there I go, rushing into things. The last Scarecrow laughed at the situation as he rubbed the back of his head, grateful that his limbs were still in one piece. They appeared to be in a small, cozy room. The ceiling above was completely destroyed. But the room itself had a large cushion to rest on, a table, and what he imagined a fireplace might look like, if he could recall what its creators once described as such. The path ahead of them was clear, since the walls had long since crumbled apart, along with the entrances between rooms. Maybe this time we don't rush forward recklessly, he cautioned. Mr. Quilt acknowledged this by hovering just behind him this time. By hovering just behind him. By hovering just behind, waiting for him to lead the way. So they carried on, walking through a series of dark, ruined rooms. Luckily, sunlight shone down into the rooms through cracks and parts of the destroyed ceiling. Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, welcome. I'm live right now. Yeah, yeah. I've been going at it. I've been writing for a little while now. Actually, I literally just set my timer here, but I'm actually at a really good. I'm in a really good train of thought right now with where I'm at with this story. Yeah, you totally can. You should pull up a journal or pull up a paper or something and join me in some writing. Did you have any stories that you're planning on working on next, or any stories that you're planning on like journaling? I want to write. Let's see. So, what are you working on? I want to write about a memory from childhood of something I have today that reminds me of the past and gives me nostalgia. Today that reminds me of the past, gives me nostalgia. That's actually a really good idea. It makes me think that you're going to pick up or get some sort of like a personal memento or some type of object that's really important to you, and have like a memory that's write down the memory that's related to it. Actually a really good idea, actually. It would make a really great free write. I'd be very curious to see what type of what memory you would go with. Let's see. You wish you had your Pokemon. You wish you had your Pokemon cards. I think I have my Pokemon cards stashed away somewhere. I was like such a nerd and a collector when I was little. I was like, I remember collecting cards when I was really young. If you're in the stream right now, were there any hobbies that you had when you were really young that you now like kept? It's Pokemon cards. It's really interesting. I was like, I think I had a full binder. I want to say the transition. I went from... Pull myself up here for a second. So I went from Pokemon cards to Yu-Gi-Oh! I remember I was like super into Yu-Gi-Oh! For a while. And then Magic eventually. And that was kind of like the transition for me. But I remember in elementary school, and this might have been before you moved to the area. It could have been... I just remember there was one day I brought out all my Pokemon cards, and suddenly everybody in the school had Pokemon cards, but it only lasted for like 3 days, where everybody like went out to the bleachers to trade them, and then 3 days later, like nobody talked about Pokemon ever again. Oh, that was the funniest thing. You should totally grab one, Vaughn, and write a cool story out of it, or think about your favorite one, and then use that as a story. Hey, what's up, Tristan? Welcome. Let's see. Perfect question for you all. Let's see. What if you have all 5 complete original sets in mint condition? Ooh, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. Tristan, are you talking about all 5 sets of just like Pokemon cards, or like which sets specifically? All 5 complete original sets. Because you know what's interesting? Like now that we're talking about now that we're talking about trading cards, before I moved, and this must have been 3 or 4 months ago, I had to go through everything that I had. And one of the things that I went through was all my like cards. I have like a thing of Pokemon, some Yu-Gi-Oh, and some Magic in there. And I had to go through like the valuation. I'm like, all right, so are these cards actually worth something, or are they all just like trash? Let's see, the dark. And I was actually very surprised at like, of all the cards that I had, most of the Pokemon cards I think were in pretty good condition and good value, because they were all like from the original Pokemon when we all were like super young. Let's see, basic, jungle, fossil, team rock. Oh yeah, the different styles. And you know, I actually know that because I had to do the research on being like, all right, how many like sets have there been since, what was that, 20 years ago? And then Vaughn, you have a Dark Magician that's sealed and actually great. Dude, good for you. That's probably actually worth a lot. When I think about Yu-Gi-Oh, like those original characters were very those original cards are probably like very highly valued. I remember my problem with Yu-Gi-Oh was I collected the cards when I was really young, and then I watched the TV show, and the TV show and the card game like never matched. It was like such a disconnect for me. But then if you watch like Pokemon, the Pokemon show and the cards seem to match. That always cracked me up. Tristan, Base Jungle, Fossil, Team Rocket, and Promo. You know, that's actually, what if you have all 5 complete original sets? You know what? I bet you if you had all 5 original sets, you could probably sell that as a bundle for like a much, much higher price. Yeah, because I think about how you would like list that. A lot of like the card trading websites that I saw online, I want to say Card Kingdom and I think TCG. I'm pretty sure TCG was the app that I was using. But if there were certain sets that seemed like they had a lot more value, and I remember looking at them, if you had the basic set, those ones generally tended to be a little higher value because those were the originals. But there was also a series of original basic Pokemon cards that were like misprinted. And if you happen to have one of the misprinted ones, there's like certain things you have to look for in the cards. They're worth like a tremendous amount of value because they were obviously original misprinted ones that were never released again. I think there's a couple where I have like some of them. Like I want to say, I think Tristan, I think maybe I might have a Pikachu that I think I had a basic, a jungle, the Team Rocket, and the promo, I believe. I think there was a peak. I'm pretty sure it was Peak Check. I can't remember. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so yeah, pre-release. Yeah, I think when I was into it, I think I was into those Pokemon cards when I was into, I want to say basic. Maybe I think Jungle was the next one. I forgot what the second like iteration was. I must have been into them for at least 3 generations, I think, before I kind of switched away from it. But yeah, because it was basically basic and then 2 separate. I'm pretty sure I had Team Rocket at the time too. I don't know if I did. No, I think I did a little Fossil. Maybe Fossil's when I stopped. Because I remember getting what was that? The rare fossils. I remember I was playing the game and it was I want to say it was like the Kabutops or Omni something. I just remember those were like the 2 fossil characters I really wanted to collect. I remember in all my cards I collected, there was only one card that I actually wanted, and I could just never get it. I remember I really wanted the what was it? It was the Alakazam. I wanted the Abracadabra Alakazam just so I could be witty and play all 3 of the cards. That was like the only set I wanted. Those were in the early days. I think when like trading was probably on eBay, and like that wasn't my jam or my vibe that early. In senior year, I brought Team Rocket and got a Dark Charizard. Damn, the Dark Charizard is probably actually worth like a decent amount, especially if it's a holographic one. And by the way, if you're just hopping into the stream right now, we're having an interesting discussion about Pokemon cards. Were you ever a Pokemon card collector? Dark Charizard. Yeah, that I like vaguely recall what the illustration looked for the dark one. It's so cool. I think of all the I think of all the cards, I remember when I was looking at pricing, I was kind of curious which ones were like the most valuable. And I think I'm pretty sure the basic misprinted holographic Charizard is amongst the highest valued Pokemon cards to date, because there was only like such a limited amount, and you can kind of tell in its like holographic design. I'm pretty sure that one was the highest valued out there. Yeah, I was like, I went through that point before this transition of like, should I to sell or not to sell? That's always the question: to sell or not to sell the cards. I still haven't decided. I'm like, they're just something that I'll have forever. The dark red show. That one was pretty cool. Yeah, I remember. But I remember whenever I got like a Pikachu in the games, whether this was in, because I always loved playing like the Game Boy games, all like the original Pokemon. I stopped for a while, and then I want to say, I think a year or two ago, I tried one of the new ones. I think it was the Sword and Shield one, and it was interesting, where it's a little more like open world. But yeah, Vaughn, there you go. You clearly the world's telling you to write about your one of your Pokemon cards. I think that's going to make for a great journal entry. Thanks, Tristan. That was actually a great, great question. As we're trying to figure out, what short stories and free writes should we write next? Dang. But I like totally blame you guys now. If now for like the next like couple of days, I'm going to be like craving to play like a Pokemon game. I think the only like Pokemon thing I've done was I think I've hopped on Pokemon Go occasionally, but it's not really like Pokemon. It's augmented reality, as we all know. Yeah. Really? I actually wouldn't be surprised. There's like so many different types of like so many different Pokemon series right now. If you're in the live stream, did you guys see the Pokemon? Okay, there was a Pokemon video that stood out to me. This must have been about 6 months, 8 months ago. If you're in the live stream, did you see that Pokemon video of it was because it was the Ash Ketchum, that actor. I think it was his last episode, and after doing like so many years of voice acting that character, and there was like a clip of the last his very last episode, and it was just it was very just like heartwarming, and then made me remember back to the days of when I was watching it. Oh, wait, yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I don't think I've gone that far. I mean, I just assumed that eventually he would have to win. Yeah, I assumed he had to win. I think maybe I watched like halfway through the series, through the overall series. I don't think it's one that I've ever gone back to watch, but I feel like it's something maybe I'll probably feel like hopping on like eventually. When I think of like cartoons or animes, I think I've ended up veering more towards like anime as compared to like OG like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or any of those. Yeah, I think the last anime that I was binging was probably One Piece. But I totally blame it on it was because there was that Netflix show that made me want to watch it. Let's see. Yeah, I did that with comic books, and then all of a sudden, modern age, all these movies are popular. I'm like, well, I knew about that stuff back in the day. Maybe, yeah, maybe it will. I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure I saw what's that? The Pokemon Company. I'm pretty sure they announced that they're doing a live action Pokemon show based off the original series. I'm pretty sure I hear that because there's clearly a desire for the Pokemon franchise because Detective Pikachu did well. So clearly they're going to do the same thing in the Pokemon universe. It'll be interesting to see if they do the whole original Ash Ketchum story. But I feel like that would probably be the best way for them to target their OG fan base. Let's see. Are you going to open the story for us to read at some point? Or are you going to monetize that part? That's actually a great question. I haven't really determined that yet. um, when I think about it, I'm mixed. I haven't decided because on one end, I want to provide as much value and make as much stuff free so that way I can continue to build on and get to know this creative writing community. At the same time, I also need to figure out and continue establishing and improving my financial freedom to be successful? So that's a great question. I think in a perfect world, if I can find a happy medium between the two, I think that would actually be really cool. But yeah, I haven't decided yet. What I'd probably do is I'll probably look into what other authors are doing. Because there's one thing I've seen from a lot of my social media research as of late. There's a lot of authors out there who advertise. I see the most predominant advertising in some of the Facebook groups, a lot more through Instagram. Not too sure about TikTok, but I imagine TikTok probably has a younger author audience. But yeah, I'll probably like check out things that others are doing out there that are working, and then I make a decision from there. I think like right now with where I'm at, I feel like I've just been having so much fun in like developing and creating the story. My goal is just to create the most awesome story ever. Ooh, that action sequence. Okay, let me know what 6 copies cost. Jonathan Riley, Victoria, Brandon, Jacob, and one for myself. Aw, that's really sweet, Vaughn. I really appreciate that. That's really cool. I'll probably what I'll do. I probably won't make that determination until I finish the story. Usually what I like to, or when I say finish, at least get through a full draft. When I'm working on a story, I think before I generally think about like what next steps look like, I'm the type of writer or creator where I like to have an original, or I like to have a rough draft first, because I know that's what's going to take me the longest. Once I start going through the second, through the third, through the fourth draft, I know my efficiency and my speed picks up and increases a little bit. And that way then I'll have a better time frame of like, okay, now I know how long it's going to take me to finish the project, and then I can kind of start planning for whatever my next step is. But thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Once I get farther along into the project, I'll definitely keep you updated. I'm just like, as I'm like kind of creating the story, and like I know it's going to be a pretty good sized story. Like I'm actually like, I feel pretty confident it's going to be like a very like, it's going to be an overall like fun, it's going to be dark. It's definitely going to be dark. It's going to be a very it's a dark post-apocalyptic fairy tale. That's what it is in a nutshell. Almost all these people are going to have babies. Let's say almost all these people are going to have babies, so you have time. Because I don't think the story is quite appropriate for them. Yeah, but it could be fun, and I do owe all of them a baby book. They're all definitely yeah, I was like, I don't know if this story specifically is turning into is going to be quite like a book for like for toddlers per se. I think I'm definitely going to be trying to keep it in the young adult genre category though. When I think about genre, it'd probably be in like the same like genre category as something like Harry Potter, for instance, would be is kind of what my gut is telling me with where the direction of the story is going to go. And I don't know if I told you. It's actually I need to make sure that this action scene makes sense first. Just a second. A bout of flames burst up right in front of them. He had to screech to a sudden. No, let's this like action sequences. I feel like I always have to do like. I have to word it in a way where the writing feels quick. So I try to leverage a shorter dialogue and action phrases. You're right, Mr. Quill. If we stay here, we'll be, the last Scarecrow knew if he thought too much about it, he would never budge. He made a run for it. The reflection of the flames once again reflected in his eyes. Mr. Quill soared just behind him, probably just as fearful of an element that could rightly burn it out of existence. A bout of flames burst up right in front of them. He had to screech to a sudden halt. The floor nearly gave way where they stopped. They hopped to a different part of the unsteady flooring. In darkness again, they waited. The last Scarecrow knew as much as he wanted to keep running, they waited. As much as he wanted to keep running, they could only move during these random bouts of flame. He hoped for everything that he was worth, that no bout of flame caught his straw, that no flame caught his straw, or else he would really be a goner. With no access to water, they would be in trouble. Well, that's not necessary. He looked left and right. The flames suddenly started springing to life from the very floor beneath them. It began at the entrance of the room and trailed in their direction. That's not a good sign, the last Scarecrow cried as he sprinted to the opposite end of the room. The flames trailed right on his heel. He ran his heels. He ran frantically. A pit in the floor blocked the opposite wall. The flames snapped up the rest of the flooring. He jumped for dear life. Mr. Quilt flew at the wall. Flew against the wall. It came crumbling down, and the two of them crash landed in the next room with a wild display of tumbling. I'm liking it. I'm liking it so far. I'll have to give it space to breathe. But yeah, and by the way, Vaughn, I came up with a new pitch for the story now. Now that I have like a clear understanding of the direction I want to take it. And if you're hopping in the live stream or the replay, this would be like the brief synopsis of it. The Last Scarecrow, a post-apocalyptic fairy tale about a scarecrow come to life, who journeys across a land ridden with animals, creatures, and beasts who are fading away into the nothingness at the hands of the first demon. Yeah. So essentially, like this at heart is the story. All right. So I feel pretty good about that. I feel like I made some really good progress today. Whenever you write, and I'll pull myself up here. So I don't know if, as a writer, if you've ever worked on any action sequences in your stories, but I know it's very important when you're doing anything that involves more like physicality, less mental or less interiority in a story. You have to be very careful about the wording, the phrases, and the dialogue that you use, because in scenes where there's not a lot of action going on, you can be exploring the character and understanding them through different avenues or different means. But when there's more going on in the physical world around them, you have to be very selective in how you approach those scenarios. Perfect. Well, I'm going to let's see. All right, so I'm going to sign off for today, but I feel like I made good progress. I want to say I did probably about 2 to 3 pages again. I know exactly where I'm going right now with this next scene. I'll probably in the next section be getting to a climax of this new city environment, because I know what I want to happen. I'll next be on tomorrow. Let me pull up my picture. I'll next be on tomorrow. Let me see if I can zoom it. So I'll next be on tomorrow, once again at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, feel free to join me tomorrow on the live. Vaughn, once again, thanks for hopping in the stream today. If you hopped in the stream, or if you were on the replay, thank you again for joining me. It was I hope that the questions and the narrative that you found value. If you're watching the replay, be sure to post a question down in the comments if you want any creative writing questions answered. And don't forget to like and or subscribe this video, so that way you'll be notified when I come out with new creative writing tips, tricks, strategies, games. Might do some games at some point, we'll see. And all good things creative writing. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Kauffman, and I'm going to catch you on the flip side. All right, later, guys.